Listeners, when you started, like basically anybody who's an author was your target market, and then you switched over to, as you mentioned, to nonfiction.
Any fiction, non-fiction, whatever. Like I just needed to get clients and validate.
Talking purely in business, you don't turn losers into winners. You help winners win more.
The client has that figured out. They know how to consistently sell on the back end. They know how to get really good leads.
You struggle is you choose clients that don't have any CRMs, don't have any back end, don't have any sales process, don't have a phone process, don't have any way to generate referrals. There's literally no back end.
So that they know, hey, if I want more help, I know where to go. And there's a specific offer for that.
All right, you beautiful, sexy, attractive motherfuckers. I have for you guys somebody I think is one of the coolest people in our agency space here. Chris Benetti is the guy who helps sell a lot of books for a lot of the big names in our space. Many of those people you will know. Our man Joel Urway, Steve Sims, who is obviously like one of the coolest authors ever, Scott Oldford, and recently uh, Chris just got in with Ryan Dice selling that book right behind him. As you can see over his shoulder, Get Scalable. It's a little blurry, but that's the next piece. So firstly, Chris, my man, thank you for being here and doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
So we were talking about like right just off air, something that kind of is like the dark side of the agency is like now you're in this position where a lot of your clients are kind of like, at least in our little tiny corner of the internet, like, you know, A-lister kind of authors. They're known names, they have some sort of celebrity brand image, things like that. And people can mistake that for, well, Chris's guy, he's just got the Midas touch, he's always had the Midas touch. And I wanted to talk a little bit about something we all go through, which is the figuring out who are the right types of clients and the evolution of where you start with, you know, anybody who, and then you get a little tighter, and then you get a little tighter, and eventually you figure it out. And then all of a sudden you have the Midas touch because you're doing it for the right people. But on that journey, you had mentioned something that we all go through, which is a whole lot of churn, a whole lot of misery, whole lot of like banging your head against the wall. Why is this shit not working? And not realizing it's like literally just a client selection issue. So I wonder if you could share a little bit just about your journey, where you started, and how kind of your progression there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some background here. My agency in this model is less than 2 years old. So we kind of had our breakout mid of 2022. So we're quite young as an agency and this model. And just through, I guess, market research and whatnot, I obviously identified my niche, which I think most of us will do. So my niche, which I think most of us will do as a part of our like agency setup. And ultimately, I think what we do when we do that is cool. Let's start working with people in that kind of vertical. Um, and that's what I did. Basically, I just needed clients. I needed to prove that I could get results for people and all of that. But in that process, I ultimately found that I was just working with and anyone who had a book. And through that, like I find it very difficult to get results for these kind of people. So then I narrowed it further to anyone who was like non-fiction author, specifically like some sort
So,
of
so just
self-help
correct me
or
if I'm wrong, just for our listeners, when you started, like basically anybody who's an author was your target market, and then you switched over to, as you mentioned, to nonfiction. Okay, sorry, please continue.
yeah. Yeah, so kind of like any fiction, non-fiction, whatever, like I just needed to get clients and validate my services. Then I went to nonfiction, and then I quickly found that like, hey, a lot of people who will write nonfictions, they'll write like, biographies and things like that, which aren't very vindicative of having, other offers and things that align with the book. So I found that those kind of people, most of the time it was either passion projects or things like that where they weren't really willing to invest in a service. And I'm not really sure how valuable a service like mine would actually be to them anyway, as well, from a
Yeah.
return
Yeah.
perspective. So then I kind of went a step further and then identified that, hey, like people who were business owners and had a book was really good. But then I also found out that not all business owners had back end to their book. That I worked with someone who had a a potty training book. And while she had like front end products that we could upsell in the funnel, there was really nothing on the back of the funnel that made sense for us to sell. And so our front end ads were profitable, not including my agency retainer, but it wasn't enough for her. Obviously, she wanted to try and cover everything and still, have a working campaign. And in my opinion, like that just turned out to be like a unicorn situation. Like it's very rare that that happens when you engage in an agency for, let's just say, $3,000 a month, and you also got like 3 to 5,000 in ad spend. To have all of that be covered through the front end funnel, which, if we're talking about different funnels, like that's an acquisition funnel, it's not really meant for profit. And having that work with everything going on, you really need to be able to convert the leads that come through on the acquisition funnel into back-end clients for your business. So that then led me to, cool, if you don't have a back end for your book, if your book doesn't directly correspond with what you're offering on the back end, then we're not a good fit to work together. And I'm just like hyper niche now in that respect.
Yeah. And that's usually how it goes, and I've had a few conversations with the more successful people in our agency space. I won't name drop on that, but just for privacy reasons. But we all kind of go through that journey. I know for me, it started with my client avatar was a lawyer. And I thought any lawyer would be good. And then I got some lawyers, and you find out that some of them are way harder to help, like bankruptcy lawyers. They often sell their shit for $800, or there's some guys who sell wills for $99. And it's like, I can barely even advertise to go get a will. And then I found that, it just worked better for personal injury lawyers. And so I went a step further and decided I specialize in the personal injury lawyers. And that was after making a lot of mistakes and churning all over some of the other places. And then I found out there's a whole niche within there. There's like broke, beginning, struggling personal injury lawyers. And there's guys who spend, 12 million a year on TV alone and drop,
Mhm.
400,000 a month just on pay-per-click. And that's a totally different tier of client than those. And so it became hyper focused, as you mentioned, like on the injury lawyers who spent all the money on advertising and also had teams in place. And as you mentioned, had the ability to use it. And I think this is a misunderstood thing in the agency space, is people don't realize like 60% of the success is client selection and just knowing who makes a good fit. And in the beginning, I think a lot of people think you're supposed to be the savior. You're supposed to come in and like, make the magic happen. I'm going to save a business. I'm going to turn it around. And I always say, like, I used to watch a lot of Kitchen Nightmares and Bar Rescue and these kind of shows. And Gordon Ramsay, by the way, when he goes and flips these restaurants around, has a 95% failure rate. That means in 1 year from now, 20 of the restaurants that he fixed up, 19 will be out of business. And that's because, like, for putting it nicely, they may be nice people and stuff, but like, in talking purely in business, you don't turn losers into winners. You help winners win more. And
Mhm.
so I think you've done a wonderful job doing that. I wonder if you could speak a little bit to, in your case, the importance of having a back end and why that's like such a key component of the success, and how that kind of like factors into what you're able to do when you go like create these ads and things like that.
Yeah. So from what I've seen, there's a percentage of people who buy the book actually become back-end clients of the business, the author. Um, and so for me, it's really important that first the client has that figured out. They know how to consistently sell on the back end. They know how to get really good leads, which book leads are, and convert them over in the back end. And if they can do that, they can have some pretty basic, follow-ups and conversion, tactics and whatnot. And we'll still find that we convert around 1% of book buyers into back-end customers. And if we're talking, back-end prices ranging from 5 to 30K, and we're selling 100 books a month on a 3 grand ad spend, that you can quite easily see that, hey, 3 grand in plus retain or whatever, 5 grand a month or 6 grand a month, then, we're converting 1% into, 5 to 30,000 on the back end. Even one per month would be a very profitable month for the authors that we work with. And, 1% is on the low end. So, for me, like if someone is really proactive and they've got a team that's following up leads and they're calling and they're, trying to, triage and schedule, calls with sales teams and all of that kind of stuff, then we can see that 1% go to like 5 to 10%, and then that starts to make a really impactful difference
Yeah.
in the campaign as a whole. Because now it's not like the author going, oh, I'm spending all this money with you every single month, 6 grand's a big investment, whatever. And they're trying to break even on the front end. Now they're actually just like easily converting on the back end because, we're getting good leads for them. They've got a system as well. They're in place already.
Yeah.
And it's very important for me that that client has that portion figured out. And again, like I'm just super hyper niche. I like won't take on clients that aren't like that.
Yeah. And I think this, by the way, advice that's useful for the rest of you people that don't just sell books. In my case, my first book here, I'm working on a second one right now, but I get about $3, $4 every time Amazon sells one of these things. And Chris mentioned if you spend $3,000 and you sell 100 books and you make $300 back in profit, well, you just lost $2,700. You're not going to have a happy client. But if that's a lead in to a 30K thing and somebody takes a 30K upsell, like one person, it only takes one person to make the math work. And I think so many of you guys, part of the reasons you struggle is you choose clients that don't have any CRMs, don't have any back end, don't have any sales process, don't have a phone process, don't have any way to generate referrals. There's literally no back end. And so all that happens is when you turn on the ad machine is they spend $3,000 to make $300 and they look at you cross-eyed going, what the hell did you just do? And because you're so hyper-focused that you have to have those pieces in place before you start, I think that's useful advice that anybody could follow in general. I wonder if you could speak to a little bit about the agency owners that actually have books and on that and how you can potentially like what they can do, some of what that process looks like for sharing their book within their marketplace and using it as a lead in, which I can confirm happens, gives you like expert status when you can say, hey, I literally wrote the book on this topic. And by the way, there's no qualifications. Like when I upload that on Amazon, they don't say like, have you ever done this before? Do you know what you're talking about? Things like that. They just let you publish it. It's a
Yeah.
pretty democratic system that way, and they let you go sell some books. But I wonder if you could talk to because we've got a lot of folks in our agency space that have used books on Amazon or maybe are thinking of using books of kind of like what this process looks like and how you kind of, like use Facebook ads and creatives to sell books would ultimately sells either coaching or consulting or agency services or something like that on the back end.
Yeah. So there's different platforms to advertise on. Obviously, there's Amazon, and there's a range of different benefits, I think, to use advertising on Amazon versus advertising Facebook and having a separate funnel. So, I'd love to just touch on both of those kind of campaigns first, and then, I can kind of give you the pros and cons, from my perspective. So, the first thing that you need to make sure you have in your book is a funnel within the book itself. So your book needs to lead somewhere. If you have a resources page, there needs to be something that like gets someone to go, oh, cool, I want that, and I'm going to give you contact information for it. Because
Yeah.
if you're selling on Amazon, then you're ultimately not going to be able to, get any contact information from that sale unless someone like proactively reaches out to you other than there being a resource page and somewhere where they can opt in to get resources.
Yeah.
I would suggest like at the back of the book is having an offer for what you can do or how you can help from a coaching or a done for you perspective
Yeah.
in there as well, so that they know, hey, if I want more help, I know where to go, and there's a specific offer for that. That
Yeah.
can, maybe be setting
Can
up
I
a
just
call
throw that
with you.
out
It can
there as
be,
a braggadocious moment? Like funnel
there
looks
you
like
go.
this, says go sign up for this kind of thing. Have to.
100K email template. There you go. Go get it. Yeah. So like Frankie already figured that out. These days, I think if you're doing books, like QR codes are super good. That was popularized in the 2019 era. So like if you have QR codes going to links, like that makes it easy for people to scan stuff with their phone and, go right there without having to type in and be,
Yeah.
lazy. So that's the first thing I would suggest, like you have set up. Now, the pros and cons of Amazon. If you're selling on Amazon, first and foremost, I think it's a really good marketplace. People like to buy books on Amazon, whether it be Kindle, physical, audio, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's the place to be to sell books, to be honest. And like Frankie said, there's really no parameters that you need to make sure that you have achieved before you can go ahead and list your stuff on there. It's just like you can list it and you can sell it, and it's pretty much a an instant process.
Yeah.
Now, advertising is also very easy to set up and it's very easy to run as well. So my favorite parts about Amazon campaigns is you can typically get a book sold cheaper on Amazon with advertising than you can with Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's a much simpler kind of campaign to run because it's all based off of keywords, product selection, category selection, or even just automatic campaigns. So
Yeah.
you can basically just use what Amazon suggests that you use to, put in keywords. You can just use the suggested keywords. You can just use the suggested products, or you can go a little bit beyond and do some market research, and you can kind of do what you want there. And it's very simple to run and manage. So a little bit cheaper, easier to run and manage. The downsides is you don't get any contact data. Like if someone buys your book there, you literally will never know who that person is.
Yeah.
So, that's where the funnel inside the book needs to come into place, making sure that people have a template that they can download and put their email address in for, making sure people know what the next steps to work with you are. Having all of that available in the book is important.
Yeah.
Now, coming over to like the type of campaigns that I prefer to run, it is so much, it's like infinitely more work, but it's also much more impactful. Um, I like to set up a book funnel, and with a book funnel, it means that we're selling the book on our own website or our own platform essentially. And there's really two different types of book funnels. We have a free book funnel and we have a paid book funnel.
Yeah.
Free book funnel is literally like, hey, give us your name, email, phone number, whatever, and I'll send you a PDF of the book in an email. So it's just a simple like opt in, and I'll get you the book. Now the next step in the funnel would be, hey, thanks for getting my outside the agency box book. If you want help growing your agency where you don't have to take sales calls, you don't have to work, 60 hours a week, you don't have to do X, Y, Z, then I'd love to. Oh, I was going to say I'd love to book a strategy session with you, but Frankie doesn't take sales calls. So I'd love if you could fill in this application and I'll review it to see if we're a good
I
fit to
just
work
say,
together.
check out this video that talks about blah, 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 whatever the benefits of the thing are.
Yeah. So, here's my Google page, sales doc. Anyway, so, it would essentially just be like a correlation to the book and then making an offer that makes sense on the thank you page to get them to kind of take the next step with you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you would have a good series of follow-up emails to kind of just like get them back to the next thing. Like my goal is like nurture and get back to the next thing. What's the next thing? Maybe it's a strategy session for you. Maybe it's filling out an application. Maybe it's watching this VSL, whatever it is, do that. So that's kind of the free book funnel setup. Now, the benefits of a free book funnel is that is also cheaper to run than a paid book funnel because we're obviously not asking for credit card information or anything like that. So we'll typically see, 10 times more people actually go through that funnel. We'll typically see it be around, 3 to 7 times cheaper for someone to kind of go through that funnel as well. And so there's a lot of benefits to that if you really want to just like build email lists, make sure that people are seeing your next step offers and giving value in the marketplace essentially.
Yeah.
So highly recommend that if you want a simple campaign to run that is Facebook and funnel based, that you can actually lead generate from. Now, my actual favorite one is the paid book funnel. It is much more complex, but essentially when we do a paid book funnel, this can even just be like free plus shipping. It can be, buy this book for X and then we'll do free shipping, or buy this digital book for $4.95 or whatever. Just anything that we're getting credit card information up front. The benefits of this is that we can start to now do upsells in the book funnel, and any upsell money that we make in the book funnel instantly offsets the ad spend. So if we have people on average spending $30 with us in the book funnel, and we're spending $30 to get someone to buy the book, then you can see that that's now a break-even campaign. We're not actually spending any money
Yeah.
to get someone to come onto our email list. Where even in a free book, it might be $10 to $20 to get someone to download your book, kind of thing. So it's still costing you that money per person.
Yeah.
So the benefits here is that like we can obviously start to offset our ad spend and potentially even make some money on top of our ad spend if it's run well. I'd probably say like 10% of people achieve that maybe. So it's kind of a pipe dream, but it's achievable. And you also get your other products into the hands of people who buy your book. So it's like you can deliver book, but you can also deliver courses and templates and cheat sheets and things like that that help to give additional value. Now, obviously, they're paying for that. But I would say that that's actually a benefit in most cases. People buying more stuff with you makes them kind of pre-framed to continue buying more stuff with you if they see the value, right? So I actually think that the paid book funnel creates the best type of customer for you, and especially the paid book funnel where someone buys a lot of your shit in the book funnel makes the best customer for you because they're more willing to essentially see the value in what you're offering and hopefully pay you more after the fact as well.
Yeah, that's genius, by the way. I've kind of made this point that you were just kind of making in a different way, where I don't know if you guys can see over my shoulder, but I got a bunch of books here. And I always say that, like, when it comes to books, like, I'm a book buyer. I'm sure you are as well, Chris. And I'm sure most of the people listening here are book buyers. And we're just going to be that way the rest of our life. There's never a point where I feel like I got enough books. I'm done. I don't need to read any. I'm always looking for that next, like, sort of competitive edge. And that's normal. And so, like, if you present a book offer to me or to you or any of our listeners here, chances are it's a pretty easy sale in the sense that if you can convince me there's one like really big idea that's worth listening to, I'll get it. The flip side of that is, like, I'm sure some of you guys can relate to this. I have, like, most of my family back home, like my brother and I got two half sisters, like, they don't read. They've never read a book in their fucking life, and nor will they ever. Like, I think of my brother, if you're selling like MMA pay-per-views, you're going to have probably a good time selling it. But if you try and sell him a business book about improving his life or whatever, or his conversions, you're probably barking, like paddling up Schitt's Creek kind of thing, barking up the wrong tree.
Mhm.
And so much of this is, a lot of times people think it's just sheer numbers of like, how can I get the most number of people? And one of my big secrets is people say, oh, you should be more known than you are. But in reality, like, I have an insanely high percentage of buyers in my audience. And so because of that, it's very easy for me to move products and sell things and do stuff like that. And it says less about me and how awesome I am and more just about who's actually following me and things like that. And that's obviously been done on purpose and by design. But that's the other thing that you're kind of hinting at and alluding to, is you get people who are used to giving your credit card to help you solve problems. And, like, if you sell books, you want to sell. And I tell you, like, not enough people realize that if you get this wrong, it's like, imagine your job is to go sell pork ribs and you got to go to the Jewish vegetarian conference. And it's like, I don't care what offer you make. I don't care what your copy is. I don't care what you say. I don't care how strong the demonstration. I don't care what the pitch is. You're just, like, literally talking to the wrong audience because they're not buyers of pork ribs and they never will be. And so at the Jewish vegetarian conference, you're going to have a miserable fucking day. But the flip side of that is, if you're at the, like the Alabama football game and it's everybody who eats barbecue and you got a pork ribs offer, you're probably going to sell it out and with ease. And so one of the beautiful things that you're doing is you're bringing in people who have read your book, see you as an expert, who have proven buying behavior, and have it in one form or another admitted that they have the problems inside of the book, and therefore, like, are usually a good fit for you to actually help them, because they wouldn't be reading the book if they weren't interested in kind of taking that next level. So I'm going to give you the big genius high five on that. I wonder if just lastly, if we could talk a little bit about creatives. I know that's a little bit of your secret sauce. And for those of you guys, we'll put some links after Chris has some options for those of you guys, both to work with him as well. If you guys just want to, like, he's got a standalone where you can buy his best, like, most proven creatives, and you don't have to figure this stuff out. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, like, what kind of creatives you see that help sell books the best, and use this as a tool for those people who want to use it as a kind of client getting kind of system.
Yeah, so creatives early days for me were probably the hardest thing. And I think just from retrospect, working with other ad agencies, I got into this space originally working with an agency as a funnel person for them. And, just seeing what they produced and how mismatched and messy it was, even when they had a designer on team. I have found that that was like the hardest part. And I still today see so many ad agencies just like waiting for the client to send them creatives. It's like, hey, I can run your ads when you send me some creatives. And it's just like, I just made it a mission of mine to make sure that that was not how I operated as an agency. Like, no offense at all. But for me, I just wanted to go like, cool, I'm the opposite. I'll do 95 to 99% of all of the work ever. And sometimes I might ask for a video or a book flip thing or, a photo of you holding the book. It's like, just send me that and that's all I need. Like, I'm good to run. So we actually, had to come up with a bit of a process after working with Joel Irway, which you mentioned earlier. Like, I found myself before I had a designer on the team having a group of templates that I would kind of create our creatives from, typically stuff based on the marketplace that I'd seen from other ads and whatnot. And every single Sunday, I was like hustling and grinding to like make these templates or new creatives so that I could roll it out for my clients on Monday, the next day.
That never
And I
happened.
found that being my routine on a Sunday. So when I hired a designer, which was about April last year, my mission in life was like, how do we get creatives as a process? How do we create templates as a process? And then how do we test everything to make sure that we know what works, generally speaking, across several clients? So, at this point, we've spent over 500 grand on ads for clients across maybe a couple dozen of or so different clients. So we basically have a set of like 20 to 40 different creatives that we've proven with ad spend. And we've got a process where we create 5 to 10 new templates every single week based again on like things that we see in the marketplace or other successful people are doing. And then every single week we customize 3 to 5 of those templates for the clients that we're currently running ads for, and we roll it out as a process. So my ads manager will, give the creative task to my designer to customize these said templates. And then on our Monday morning, we review ads and we turn off losers and we turn on new things to test essentially. And so we kind of have a process around like, hey, how do we test 1 to 5 new creatives every single week and validate them with ad spend, just depending on how much budget the client has. And then how do we consistently create new templates and then customize those templates for clients?
Yeah.
So we've kind of built up a portfolio of like around 100 templates now at this point, and we're building 5 to 10 each week on top of that.
Yeah. There's some real wisdom in that, by the way, for those of you guys who want to scale. I know that the longer I'm doing this, the more I've said you want to be paid for the assets you own, not for your ability to solve problems. In Chris's case, it's like somebody like who are you going to hire as an agency? Hey, hire us and we'll figure out some ads and we'll try some stuff and eventually we'll have it dialed in. Or hire us and we've got 20 to 40 creatives that we know work in across dozens of market. We'll swipe and deploy those and have those employed with your book in a matter of hours. And you want your value to be based on that, like the library of things. We actually have something really similar in the personal injury space where it's like I think we have 50 ads and like almost 100 or something follow-up emails after they initially sign up. And it's like it's a real value thing versus hey, work with me and we'll figure it out, or work with me, we've already got it figured out and we got 20 things we can swipe and deploy in your business. Say go and I will do those. And then what happens is the value there is not based on you as an agency. And then as you're kind of alluding to, like that whole thing makes you so much more scalable just on the basis of like you don't have to reinvent the fucking wheel every time a new client comes in the door, like the madness of having to figure that out. and like trying to always like customize it as where you're like, hey, we have a process, we know this works, fill in the blank, blah blah blah, swipe, deploy, let's give it a shot. This is a proven winner. Chances are high that it's going to work. And I think if more people did that, by the way, um, you would see less pissed off clients in general because
Mhm.
they would see, and rather than this process of dialing things in and trying stuff, you would see more stuff like just work faster, which is ultimately what clients really want. So I'm stoked to
Yep.
hear that. Just for time reasons, I want to put some links to your stuff right now. Give folks a couple of places where they can get both your if they got a book and they want you to help turn them into a superstar, where we can get that, and then secondly, like where we can get your creatives, kind of the light version for those folks who are kind of along that journey, want to be able to sell some books, but don't necessarily have time, ability, budget, whatever, or maybe want to keep it in house for whatever reason.
Mhm. Yeah, so to work with me, smartauthormedia.com, and then you can go to /chat and we can set up a call. I do enjoy taking sales calls still.
Sorry to hear
That may
that.
change one day. But yeah, no, like even if you want to jump on that, you got a book and you want some advice or, consulting, free consulting, then we can just work out, something that can help you get set up for marketing and you can decide if you want to work with me on implementing that or not. And then creatives, let's just like I've got two creative offers essentially. One where you can get like our suite of templates that are the proven ad templates. So you can go to smartauthormedia.com /creatives for that. Or if you want to have us create packs of 10 for you, it's $250 per 10 creatives that we make. And these are basically customized for your offer or your client's offer. So if you're an agency and you've got dozens of clients and you want us to build the creators for you or them, then you can essentially buy packs of 10 from me and you can increase your order quantity as much as you want to get 100 at a time or whatever. So that's smartauthormedia.com /DFY done for you. And that'll lead you to the done for you creatives.
Cool. We'll put some links for that. I just want to say for those of you guys who haven't already written a book, write a damn book. It'll help you be seen as like one of the top experts in your space. And I'll tell you, it's interesting for me having a book that's like, relatively successful. I'm not saying I'm the number one author on earth or anything like that, but, based on the goals I initially had, we've well surpassed that. To me, the biggest actually win is I get people write me every week telling me, thank you, you changed my life. I did this, I did that just based on your book. Like that to me is the ultimate win. But I will say one of the things that happens as I'm writing a second book, all those kind of who am I? Why should anybody listen to me? Oh, this is a stupid idea, and all those things that come up when you're in the book writing process. I'm experiencing those all for a second time. I've learned to ignore those thoughts and persist anyway. But I just want you guys to know we've all had that. We all have had the blank screen of death where you go, "What am I going to write today?" I forgot all about what I wanted to talk about and all those things, but persist anyway, because I'm telling you, a book is life changing. It's one of the best things you can do. I see so many people trying to chase people in our space when you don't need to. Like put a book out there and have the book sell your services for you, and then
Yeah.
just focus on distributing the book through places like Amazon. And it's a way bigger thing, by the way. If you want to get into the conferences and speak on stage or get recommended, it's a lot
Yeah.
easier for people to recommend your book than it is to recommend you. And so one of the easiest ways to sort of infiltrate a space is like, hey, just give away some free books, especially if you got an actual back end on it. I found, depending on the the industry, you can get as high as 1 in 14, 1 in 15 of those people will actually sign up for your thing.
Mhm.
Obviously, Chris said, on the low side, 1 in 100, but still give away 100 books. You sell an agency service. Like there's so many reasons to do it, and people will be much more likely to hire you as the expert if you actually literally wrote the book on it. So that's all I wanted to say for you guys, Chris. We appreciate you here coming here doing this. I'll put some links for you guys and say goodbye to our fine folks.
One more thing. There's a book called from Mike Capuzzi, the 100-page book. Check that out on Amazon. If you want to write a book and you don't want to overcomplicate the process, that'll be a nice, simple one. They're not huge books. They're just like, but they look like real books still.
Yeah.
Immensely valuable. I think that'll be beneficial for anyone who needs help with the actual writing
Yeah.
aspect.
And I can tell you, my framework was I just thought about like what are the 15, 16 big ideas that you need to like run an agency, and you could do this for any industry you're in. And then I just said, I wrote that out as a skeleton, as like bullet points. And then I went through and I spoke each of those chapters out loud and then had the audio files transcribed. And then, then most of the work was just cleaning up the language, the ums and the ahs and the formatting and those things, and saying it in simpler language. But that was the framework of the book. The basics of book one actually took me about 4 hours in the forest, just taking my notes, chapter one, blah, blah, blah. And then, you kind of play with the order and things like that. But the process doesn't actually have to be like long and miserable. So just sharing that with you guys because I hope that helps you.
Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll probably also like our free Facebook group, Beyond Agency Profits, Agency Lifestyle Design. You can get free copies of the book inside here. I look ridiculous. We're doing weekly Q&As, giving answers to all your questions. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people. We've got lots of industry leaders doing 7, 8 figures and beyond. It's a literal who's who of the brightest agency owners that I know, as well as lots of tips on scaling and stuff, books that work. So if you're not already part of it, you're going to want to be part of it. So make sure to click the link. I put it in the description of the video as well as in the pinned top comment below. So just scroll down and you can join, and it's totally free.